The human mind, a marvel of creation, capable of boundless innovation, profound thought, and exquisite creativity. Yet, for many, it becomes a relentless tormentor, a tireless engine of anxiety, a labyrinth of what-ifs and if-onlys that steals the present moment and casts a shadow over the future. We call it overthinking, a modern affliction, or so it seems. But what if I told you that over 1,000 years ago, a giant of Islamic thought, a man who grappled with his own monumental spiritual and intellectual crises, laid bare the very essence of this struggle and offered a potent, ancient remedy? Welcome, seekers of tranquility, to a profound journey into the teachings of Imam Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali, often hailed as the proof of Islam. In a world saturated with self-help gurus and fleeting mindfulness trends, Ghazali's wisdom stands as an enduring beacon, offering not just temporary calm, but a fundamental transformation of the inner landscape, a path to cultivate a mind of true stillness. Imagine for a moment the world of the 11th century, a vibrant tapestry of intellectual endeavor, spiritual yearning, and intense philosophical debates. It was into this crucible that Al-Ghazali was born in Tuz, Persia, around 1058 CE. He was a prodigious scholar, a master of Islamic law, theology, philosophy, and mysticism. By his late 20s, he had ascended to the most prestigious academic post of his time, heading the Nizamiya Madrasa in Baghdad, the intellectual capital of the world. He commanded immense respect, wealth, and influence. He was at the pinnacle of worldly success. But within this seemingly perfect life, a storm was brewing. Ghazali found himself consumed by an intellectual skepticism, a profound doubt that gnawed at the foundations of his knowledge and faith. He questioned everything: the certainty of sensory perceptions, the reliability of reason, the validity of various philosophical schools. This was not mere academic curiosity, it was an existential crisis, a deep spiritual malady that rendered him incapable of speech, unable to teach, and physically unwell. He describes this period as a prolonged illness that lasted for months, rendering him utterly dysfunctional. His crisis was, in essence, an extreme form of overthinking, an intellectual paralysis born from an inability to reconcile conflicting ideas and find true certainty. He recognized that his pursuit of worldly knowledge and fame had become a veil between him and God, a source of inner disquiet rather than peace. He yearned for conviction, for a direct experience of truth that intellectual discourse alone could not provide. In a radical move, Al-Ghazali abandoned his illustrious career, his wealth, and his status. He left Baghdad, adopting the life of a wandering ascetic, immersing himself in Sufi practices, seeking experiential knowledge rather than purely theoretical understanding. For nearly a decade, he traveled, meditated, and purified his soul, moving from Damascus to Jerusalem and eventually returning to his hometown. It was during this period of intense introspection and spiritual struggle that he found his remedy, a profound blueprint for inner peace that transcended intellectual debates and spoke directly to the heart. So what is this ancient remedy for overthinking? Ghazali understood that overthinking, or what he might call waswasa, whisperings, insinuations, intrusive thoughts, arises from an unpurified heart and an unchecked ego, amplified by excessive worldly attachments and heedlessness or ghafla. The mind, left to its own devices, will spin endless narratives, often negative, because it is not anchored in something higher, something eternal. His remedy is not a quick fix, but a holistic path of spiritual discipline, designed to purify the heart, tazkiyah al-nafs, and align the soul with divine truth. It is a journey from distraction to focus, from agitation to tranquility, from intellectual speculation to experiential certainty. Let us explore the practical steps of Al-Ghazali's method for cultivating a mind of stillness. Step 1. Recognition and sincere intention, or niyyah. The first step on any path of transformation, according to Ghazali, is self-awareness and a sincere intention. You must first recognize that overthinking is a problem, a disease of the heart and mind that diminishes your spiritual potential and robs you of pace. This recognition is not an act of self-condemnation, but an honest assessment, a moment of awakening. Without acknowledging the ailment, one cannot seek the cure.
Crucially, this recognition must be coupled with a sincere intention, niyyah, to change. It's not enough to intellectually understand overthinking. One must genuinely desire to overcome it, to seek inner peace for the sake of Allah, not merely for worldly comfort. This intention acts as the spiritual compass, directing all subsequent efforts. Ghazali would argue that without this pure intention, even seemingly good deeds can be corrupted by ego and worldly desires, ultimately failing to bring genuine stillness. This initial step requires a moment of profound self-reflection. Ask yourself, what is the true cost of my incessant thoughts? How does it hinder my spiritual growth, my relationships, my ability to truly live in the present? Once this awareness dawns, let a firm and unwavering intention to seek tranquility guide your heart. Step 2. Silence of the tongue and solitude, uzla. Having established a sincere intention, Ghazali directs us to practical outward steps that lay the groundwork for inner peace. The first of these is the discipline of the tongue and the practice of solitude, uzla. In our modern world, we are constantly bombarded by noise. External chatter, social media feeds, news cycles, and endless conversations. Ghazali understood that the external world profoundly impacts our internal state. He taught that excessive speech, particularly idle talk, gossip, argumentation, and empty rhetoric, agitates the mind and heart. Each word spoken without purpose, each utterance fueled by ego, adds another layer of dust to the mirror of the heart, obscuring its clarity. Therefore, the discipline of the tongue is paramount. This doesn't mean becoming mute, but rather speaking only when necessary, when the words are beneficial, truthful, and uttered with intention. It's about cultivating a habit of internal reflection before external expression. Complementing this is the practice of solitude, uzla. Ghazali, having experienced its profound benefits firsthand, advocated for periods of withdrawal from social engagement and worldly distractions. This doesn't necessitate becoming a hermit, but rather it's about consciously carving out time and space in your life to be alone with yourself and with God. In these moments of solitude, the mind begins to settle, as the external stimuli diminish. The relentless pressure of social performance, the constant flow of information, the demands of others, all recede, allowing the inner voice, the voice of the soul, to emerge. Think of it as decluttering your mental environment. Just as we clean our homes to create a serene living space, uzla is about cleaning our perceptual space, reducing the input that fuels the mind's overactive nature. In this silence, both external and vocal, the subtle whisperings of the heart become audible, and the ground is prepared for deeper inner work. Step 3. Silence of the heart, muraqabah and muhasabah. Once the external noise and excessive speech are managed, the true work begins, the cultivation of the silence of the heart. This is where Ghazali's teachings delve deep into the purification of the inner self, primarily through the practices of muraqabah, vigilance, self-observation, and muhasabah, self-accounting. Muraqabah is the continuous monitoring of one's thoughts, intentions, and inner states. It's an active, moment-to-moment awareness of what is unfolding within the heart and mind. Are my thoughts pure? Are they leading me closer to God or further away? Am I harboring ill will, envy, or attachment to the transient world? This isn't about judgment, but about observation, like a vigilant gardener tending to his plants, pulling out weeds before they take root. This practice helps to identify the root causes of overthinking. Often, our incessant thoughts stem from fear of the future, regret over the past, comparison with others, or attachment to specific outcomes. Through muraqabah, we begin to see the patterns, the triggers, and the underlying emotional currents that drive our mental chatter. Muhasabah, or self-accounting, takes this a step further. It is a daily, often nightly practice of reviewing one's actions, thoughts, and intentions of the day. It's a spiritual audit. Did I live up to my intentions? Did I succumb to negative thoughts or actions? Where could I have been better? What lessons can I learn for tomorrow? This systematic self-reflection cultivates a disciplined inner life, holding oneself accountable for one's spiritual journey. It breaks the cycle of unconscious repetition where overthinking becomes a default mode and replaces it with conscious, intentional living. These practices together create an inner stillness not by suppressing thoughts, but by understanding and purifying their source. By becoming aware of our inner landscape, we gain the agency to choose which thoughts to entertain and which to gently dismiss, fostering a mind that is clear, focused, and free from incessant agitation. Step 4. The practice of dhikr and contemplation, or fikr. With the internal and external environments made conducive, Ghazali introduces the direct method for imbuing the mind with stillness, the practice of dhikr, remembrance of God, and profound contemplation, or fikr. Dhikr is not merely the recitation of phrases, it is the conscious, continuous invocation of God's names and attributes, or specific prayers, with presence of heart and mind. The purpose of dhikr is to shift the mind's focus from its endless worldly narratives to the divine. When the tongue and heart are engaged in the remembrance of God, there is simply less mental space for trivialities, anxieties, and the corrosive cycle of overthinking. Each remembrance acts like a gentle anchor, pulling the restless mind back to a point of spiritual focus. Ghazali explains that the heart, by its very nature, must be occupied. If it is not occupied by the remembrance of God, it will inevitably be occupied by something else, often the very thoughts and worries that lead to overthinking. Dhikr becomes a spiritual countermeasure, actively filling the mental void with beneficial, purifying thoughts. Hand in hand with dhikr is fikr, or contemplation. This is not casual daydreaming, but deep, sustained reflection on the signs of God in creation, on the meaning of life, on the nature of truth, and on one's ultimate purpose. It involves pondering the transient nature of this world and the eternal reality of the hereafter. Such contemplation elevates the mind from the mundane to the sacred, from the temporal to the eternal. When the mind is engaged in such profound and meaningful reflection, the petty worries and anxieties that fuel overthinking lose their grip and significance. This step is about actively retraining the mind. Instead of letting thoughts control you, you consciously direct your thoughts towards that which brings peace, purpose, and spiritual elevation. It's an active cultivation of a divinely focused mind, where stillness becomes a natural byproduct of sincere remembrance and profound contemplation. Step 5. Cultivating contentment and trust in God, qana'a and tawakkul. Much of our overthinking stems from a fundamental lack of contentment with our current circumstances and a profound anxiety about the future. We worry about what we lack, what might happen, and what we cannot control. This attachment to outcomes and an insatiable desire for more creates an incessant churn in the mind, a constant striving that never finds peace. Qana'a is the state of being truly content with what has been given, accepting one's portion with gratitude and grace. It doesn't mean passivity or a lack of ambition, but rather a deep inner peace that comes from knowing that all provisions are from God, and whatever He has decreed is ultimately good. When the heart is content, the mind finds rest from the relentless pursuit of worldly desires that often trigger overthinking. Coupled with contentment is tawakkul, absolute trust in God. This is the ultimate antidote to future anxieties. Tawakkul means doing your part, exerting your best effort, and then entrusting the outcome entirely to God. It means understanding that ultimate control lies with the divine, and therefore excessive worrying about outcomes is futile and faithless. When one truly trusts, the burden of uncertainty is lifted, and a profound sense of peace settles in the heart and mind. Al-Ghazali himself, after his period of withdrawal, returned to public life, but with a transformed heart. His experiences led him to a deeper understanding of the Sufi path, emphasizing the importance of inner purification, sincere intention, and complete reliance on God. This transformation allowed him to teach and write with renewed vigor, now imbued with experiential knowledge and profound inner peace. He demonstrated that true stillness is not an escape from life, but an enhanced way of engaging with it, from a place of clarity and spiritual strength. Modern psychology, with its focus on mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy, touches upon some aspects of what Ghazali articulated centuries ago. Mindfulness teaches us to observe our thoughts without judgment, a cousin to muraqabah. CBT helps us identify and challenge distorted thought patterns, echoing the conscious choice inherent in muhasabah. However, Ghazali's method offers a deeper, more holistic framework, grounding these practices in a spiritual context that provides ultimate meaning, purpose, and reliance on the divine, a dimension often absent in secular approaches. His method is not about merely managing symptoms. It is about cultivating a purified heart and a focused mind that naturally repels the tendencies of overthinking. It's about shifting one's entire perspective from ego-driven anxiety to divinely inspired tranquility. My dear friends, the silence that conquers overthinking is not an empty void, but a rich, fertile ground where wisdom, clarity, and true peace can flourish. It is a silence filled with the remembrance of God, with gratitude, and with an unwavering trust in His divine plan. Al-Ghazali's ancient remedy is a timeless call to reclaim your inner sanctuary, to silence the clamor of the world and the chatter of the mind, and to discover the profound stillness that resides within each of us, waiting to be unearthed. Embark on this journey with sincerity. Discipline your tongue. Seek moments of solitude. Observe your heart. Engage in constant remembrance and cultivate unwavering contentment and trust. The path is not easy, but the reward, a mind of profound stillness and a heart at peace, is eternal. May you find your stillness.